What if I told you scientists are poking materials with diamond-tipped needles smaller than blood cells to revolutionize everything from medical devices to robots? The way they're measuring squishiness at the nanoscale is completely changing how we think about flexible electronics.
That's fascinating. But why would we need such precise measurements of something as simple as squishiness?
Well, imagine you're designing a heart monitor that needs to feel like a band-aid, but work like hospital equipment. The material we're talking about, PDMS, needs to be exactly the right level of flexible, down to the microscopic level. Even tiny variations can mean the difference between a device that works perfectly and one that fails.
Hmm. So, how exactly do they measure something that precise?
They use these incredible diamond tips, one shaped like a tiny pyramid and another like a microscopic flat cylinder. The pyramid tip, called a Berkovich tip, is super precise but kind of dramatic in how it interacts with the material. The flat tip is more stable, like the reliable friend who always shows up on time.
You know, that makes me wonder, how does the material actually respond when these tiny tips poke it?
Here's where it gets really interesting. PDMS actually reaches out and grabs the measuring tip before they even make contact. It's like the material is so eager to interact that it jumps the gun. The scientists had to develop complex mathematical models just to account for this clingy behavior.
That's wild. So it's almost like the material has a mind of its own?
Exactly. And what's even more fascinating is how the material changes its behavior depending on how you interact with it. When they tested it at high frequencies, about 200 vibrations per second, the modulus jumped from 1.5 megapascals to 3.5 megapascals. It's like PDMS becomes a completely different material when you speed things up.
So, what does that mean for real world applications?
Well, think about it this way. If you're designing an ultrasonic sensor that operates at high frequencies, you need to know how the material will behave at those speeds. Using static measurements would be like trying to predict how a car handles at highway speeds by pushing it around a parking lot.
That makes so much sense. But how do they ensure consistency across the whole material?
They've developed this brilliant mapping technique where they can create what's essentially a heat map of squishiness. The nano-sized tip moves across the surface taking measurements at countless points, building up a detailed picture of how the material properties vary. It's helped them identify critical factors in manufacturing, like how even tiny changes in the mixing ratio can dramatically affect the final properties.
Almost like baking, where precise measurements make all the difference between success and failure.
That's a perfect analogy. And just like baking, they've discovered some crucial rules. First, you have to match your measurement technique to your application. Second, you need to account for that clingy behavior we talked about. And perhaps most importantly, you need to document every single detail of your process.
What kind of innovations are we seeing from all this research?
The applications are mind-blowing. We're talking about surgical tools that can change their stiffness on demand, robots that can squeeze through tight spaces by altering their material properties, and wearable devices that feel like a second skin. These precise measurements are helping us understand not just PDMS, but opening up new ways to characterize all sorts of soft materials.
So, this is really about more than just measuring squishiness. It's about understanding materials in a whole new way.
Exactly right. And what's really exciting is how this understanding is enabling new innovations across so many fields. Whether we're developing better medical devices, creating more sophisticated sensors, or pushing the boundaries of soft robotics, it all comes down to understanding exactly how these materials behave at the nanoscale. The future of flexible electronics and soft robotics is being shaped by these tiny diamond tips, one measurement at a time.